and we can talk about that with our guest. But what a good segue, because we have a woman writer, not a female writer. That's a callback to one of her pieces. She's got, if you go to her website, carabrown.com, you can see there's like a list of the shit she's written for Jezebel and other sites, and she has and blog entries and stuff, and she's like it's all really great stuff. I'm looking forward to just making friends with her or chatting with her. Please welcome Cara Brown. Hello. I'm not good at greeting people.
Hello.
I don't know if I was.
He's terrible at it.
Hello.
Would you like some vodka?
Oh man, I'm getting over a cold, so vodka helps that, right?
Yeah. And then it'll So dig into the ice with your.
That's a lot of ice.
Yeah.
He uses all of that by the end of the show.
Yeah. Do you want me to pour it for you? Like a gentleman?
Well, I'm a guest,
Or am I going to read an article on Jezebel next week of why men need to stop pouring women vodka. Drinks?
If I was still at Jezebel, it might be a concern. We'll see. That's good. That was
Thank you. You've also retired your Shade Court, I saw.
Oh my gosh, you know about Shade Court.
Well, because I went to your website, so I was like looking through all your stuff. I thought your voice was amazingly crisp and a little you literally have an entry that talks about this like angry black woman like stereotype and how people can't and so it's hard to you're a white guy and you read stuff and you go I want to let this person know that they're intimidating because that would be a good compliment, but maybe not to.
Well, no, I know what you mean, because I've gotten intimidating. I think outside of the fact that I'm a black woman, I know that I'm kind of like an intimidating person. So I think you can divorce the two. I am intimidating, so you can say it. I won't write about it tomorrow. You say it.
You have you also have a pasta fetish.
I do have a pasta fetish.
I looked at your website. I was like, I think we'll probably get along. I think this will be fine.
I make fresh pasta, fancy pasta bitch. Yeah, I do that. It was sort of a response, I think, to I started early last year, and I was like, this feels like it's going to be a long ass 4 years, hopefully. Yeah. And I needed some sort of. I like it because it's a busybody type of hobby. You're doing something with your hands, but it doesn't necessarily require a lot of brain power, and you can watch TV or do something like that. And then at the end, you get to eat pasta. So. But
you hate arugula, and
I do,
which continues to make us.
He's literally
siblings.
listing everything on my website.
I was so glad to see somebody just shit on arugula.
It's disgusting.
I'm so tired of people acting like it's delicious.
It's everywhere too. Yeah. They put it on everything.
Yeah, they won't put it in the menu description. By the way, we're going to put what you call scraggly ass. How did you describe arugula?
I don't even remember. That was
scraggly lettuce.
Yeah.
On top of your shit, that's gonna
in the mixed
taste
salads.
Like you got lost.
Yeah, when they give you a side salad and they don't tell you arugula is in the side salad. I hate that.
Yeah. But the headline item is that you're a TV writer. Were you on Blackish?
No. I actually went from Jezebel to Grownish.
Okay.
It was made that leap.
Grownish is the spin-off of Blackish.
Yes.
I honestly have only seen clips of Blackish, even though I did a panel with the creator, and he's much more respectful to my work than obviously I am of his, or toward his, not of his, because I haven't seen it. So I don't know. Can you describe?
Yeah. So Blackish is about a black family.
Gross.
I know, right? Cosby Show-esque, just in that it's a well-to-do black family right now, navigating all of that. And in the show, the oldest daughter, her name's Zoe Johnson, played by Yara Shahidi. And so our show is Yara going off to college, conveniently a different world-esque, and her dealing with all of that and being in college right now and all that bullshit. So,
were you a Different World fan?
I was a little young to watch it while it was on, but later I would watch A Different World. Yeah.
And so you're way too young did you watch Cosby and like syndication or?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
What's your take as a modern millennial? I'm assuming millennial. I don't know.
No, I'm a millennial.
Okay. Like what's your take on the Huxtables as a black family on television?
I mean, I loved the Cosby Show. I think like everyone, I actually still do. I wrote a piece about this recently where like in sort of the wake of all of this stuff that's happening and coming up, like, for me, I may not fuck with Bill Cosby anymore, but it seems really disingenuous to act like I didn't love the Cosby Show because it was wonderful. And I get that for a lot of people, it's tainted now, like understandably, and it could be difficult to watch. But, I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't amazing and like groundbreaking and that I didn't love seeing a family like that on television.
It sort of seems like, I mean, especially at its high point when there were still only 3 or 4 networks, there's a different game being played that we learn from now, which is that I'm always pointing out the Norman Lear philosophy, which is that our goal is not to like. Well, I don't know. All I know is that what Norman Lear was like looking at himself and going like, look, I don't look like the family that I'm about to create a show for, but if I don't. Nobody will, and then this syndrome will continue where people are watching television and seeing nobody that looks like them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so like it just seems like TV, like we made a decision to worship it. We made a decision that it wasn't even going to be about quality. It's not art. It was like it's like a barn raising or a church, like and so that I watched the Cosby Show every night, and like it was like, you would read in TV Guide this and that about the idea of it having something to do with blackness, but the more important thing was that it was the Cosby Show, and it was the Huxtables, and it was like always going to be amazing and funny. And part of that was like listening to this like audience that may or may not have existed in the live studio losing their fucking shit because this episode is about, it might come down to Bill Cosby like making a face for his daughter to help her get over a cold or something, and it's just like everyone's just pissing themselves and we just took part in it.
Yeah.
I don't know what my goddamn point is. I'm having my very first like I'm a bad interviewer vodka, so it's not going to make me a good interviewer. But like, so your perspective on this though is like it's a little different, like because I'm possibly 20 or more years older than you. I have no idea. I'm not going to ask. But like, what do you make of these shifting definitions? Like, as far as white people are concerned, like your advice to them, like in terms of like, are you supposed to? Let's just start with the basic. Are you supposed to recognize race? Or this fantasy of being colorblind, like let's get that out of the way.
Don't say colorblind. Yeah, that's bad.
Like we tried that for like this tremendous amount of time, and it just didn't. It's
also,
not
like
real.
I don't know that, and colorblindness is sort of saying like just pretend everyone's white. That's like kind of what people mean when they say colorblind, and like I don't want, like I like being black, so I don't need anyone to act like I'm not, and I'm sure that other people of color like being whatever they are, and I'm sure white people love being white because it seems incredible. So I
went into a library the other day, and they said you don't have to bring the books back.
Really?
Yeah. I was just like, what? And they're like, they did this like gesture. I was like, oh. And then there was a black guy behind me, and they were like, "This is overdue." And he was like, "Well, I know that's how libraries work." And the librarian was like, "Shh." I didn't know that's what they meant by "shh." All right. Anyway, sorry.
What is going on?
It's complicated.
No, I followed all of that.
But okay. So this is your first step into TV, right? From prose, from essaying.
Yes.
How did you get the job?
I got the job. So I had been So I'd been at Jezebel. I actually, like, when I moved to LA, I was living in New York. I moved to LA with the intention of getting into TV writing. And I had a really strong start at Jezebel. So I kind of got distracted. I was like, Ta-Nehisi Coates knows my name. Who the fuck cares about TV? And then Gawker filed for bankruptcy, and I panicked. And also, I think it clarified that ultimately what I was trying to do. And so I had been working on a sample that I ended up finishing in like 2 weeks out of just like sheer desperation. And a friend, he helped me edit it. And then he's repped at CAA. They were having this comedy writers boot camp kind of seminar thing, and it was aimed towards women and people of color. And so there were like panels and networking and whatever. And so Issa Rae was one of the speakers. And so I knew that she followed me on Twitter, and I was like, I think she knows who I am and has read my writing. And so I went up to her, and she immediately was like, oh my God, hello. Like, I didn't know you were interested in TV. And so she has her deal with HBO. And so she was looking for material. And I was like, I literally have this one script. And I sent it to her team, and they're like, cool, and they liked it, and they sent it to HBO. And then all of a sudden I had a meeting with an Amy at HBO, which meant nothing to me. I was like, I don't know, guys, she's the head of comedy at HBO. I had no idea. And people, a bunch of people who like didn't really give a shit before started to give a shit. So like that's how I got my agents, because like I had sort of been sending things to friends at agencies, and obviously nobody cared until you had something going on. And then I just spent the beginning of 2017 like doing all of those generals and that slog. And then I had been going into ABC a lot, and they kept being like, we think Kenya Barris, who created Blackish and created Grownish, they're like, we think Kenya will like you, we think Kenya will like you. And I kind of had to wait until the show had been picked up. He didn't like want to meet anyone until everything was ready. And then I drove to Encino, and we had coffee, and then I got the job.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
Are you so you're just you're a staff writer entering, and like what are you can say I don't want to talk about this because I don't want to start my TV career even risking doing the wrong thing, but I was just like curious, like what are your nightmare scenarios in your head when you think about the first day of school? Like
the thing is, I had been working from home for 3 years, so the idea of just interacting with humans all day was like it was all I need. Like, I was so desperate for human contact that it would have had to have been such an unbelievable nightmare for me to have like been unhappy with the setup. So I don't know. I just didn't really like. One of the things that I think has helped me is there's a lot of stuff that I didn't really know. Like, in the same way that I didn't really know who Amy was, I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, this will be fine. And because I didn't really know what to be afraid of, I wasn't that afraid of
which is
things.
Most of the value in a staff writer. I mean, like this town runs on fresh blood from the Midwest. By the way, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, that naivete, Schraub and I are never going to get that back. But we did our best writing when we were probably how old you are. I'm not going to ask. But we were like, we wrote this pilot called Heat, Vision, and Jacket. It might as well have been called We Don't Know How TV Works. like we just grew up watching it, and we just like loved the idea of a talking motorcycle kind of thing. It was like that naivete is, which is a bad word for it. It's not naivete.
No, I didn't. I mean, there was so much stuff I didn't like when the scripts kept coming back in different colors, and I was like, I didn't want to ask anyone. Like, obviously, I wasn't going to ask someone in charge, and so I might have asked one of the writer's assistants, or I think I maybe just figured it out. I was like, oh, it's a different draft. It's a different draft when the scripts are in different color, and I was like, oh, it's purple today. And
does that mean I did bad yesterday?
Yeah, I didn't really figure it out.
I never knew. I guess I kind of still don't know when, because people will like make jokes about, in Community, it was like, okay, we're on tier 3 of like
we've been in
salmon.
We've been in triple blues.
We've
before,
definitely flipped the rainbow a couple times with our rewrites.
What do you do when you go back to blue?
You just
whatever.
hope that by that time it's mathematically impossible that there's still blue pages left from the first time you had a meltdown. If you've done that many rewrites, how can it be possible that there's still first blue? I think there is some kind of like this is why writers assistants.
When that situation is happening, reading, you're less concerned exactly which blue pages you're looking at because it's like we're fucking 12 days behind.
Yeah. Well, I also like it. It makes me wonder. Yeah, I would never could tell because who's going to come up to me and say, there's way too many colors in the binder. It's fucking ridiculous. I would always say, this is getting crazy. Can we repaginate? Like, this is like, because they do this thing where the pages break. Because they don't want the other page numbers to change. So then you end up on Community. It'd be like, just turn the page. And then Troy says, Troy and Ahmed and then you turn the page because I changed it to morning. Anyways, that's a reason why as much as I understand that people who like tweet me or through other channels like inquire about the concept of a writer's assistant. I know that the image in their head is like of a squire with like a quill, that he hands to Shakespeare when Shakespeare gets in a duel with another writer, and
that happens.
It does happen.
It's just not the main part of the job.
It's not. I
thank God I never had to be. I would have been, if I had to come up in sort of like the traditional, like a PA and then a writer's PA, I would have found a different career. I'm not organized. Like, I find that job insane, and they're so like, I wouldn't have made it through a season of television as a writer's assistant.
Yeah, for sure. It's legitimately. I guess I'm saying this like it's a mind blower because what isn't it? But it's harder work than the writing on the show.
We just sit around and talk.
And the fact that the writer's assistant is there means that what is already an easy job, which is going, what if a guy had a horse? We now just like sit there and like vape and go, what if a guy had a horse? And like it's up to Tim to remember that we said it. And and a lot of those people are good writers. It's not like, oh, those people are science brains, like they're clerical thinkers. Like they're decent writers who go on to good writing careers, and then you look back and go, oh man, that poor fucking guy. Anyways,
couldn't have been me.
But well, let's talk about like Fraud Complex. Is it different for you, like at all? Like you when you leap from the pages of the internets into a writer's room like that, do you ever like are you plagued with anxiety about I don't deserve this or anything like that?
I mean, I think one of the things for me is that I had been writing professionally for 3 years. Like, people were giving me money to write, and also because it's the internet, I was getting a lot of feedback. So I was like, like when I first wrote that script, I was like, I know I'm not a shitty writer. Because like someone would have figured it out over the course of the 3 years. I don't know if I'm good at writing comedy scripts, but it's probably not going to be super shitty because I'm not a super shitty writer. So it helped me in that regard. But I mean, I feel like even now, like I wrote a cover story for The Fader on the singer SZA, and it was the first feature like profile I'd ever written. And so when I finished the story, I was like, I think this is fine. I was like, this is a fine story. And the response has been people think it's much better than fine. But that's usually how I am with my writing. So even like when I was at Jezebel and I would write something, I was like, this isn't that funny. And then the commenters like are finding it really funny. So I know that my standard is different. So I think and I kind of knew that. So I was like, even if I think this is fine, I think other people think it's better than that. So I wasn't as nervous about that. But I don't know. It's like, also, it's funny, like my dad says this. I lived in Dallas, Texas until I was 7. And so my dad talked about when he was raising me and my sister, my mom was there too, but he tells the story. And he's like, I really tried to make sure that you had a lot of self-esteem because I didn't want to raise like a little black girl in the South to not have a lot of self-esteem because there were probably a lot of things that would crush that. And then his punchline is that like he went too far. So, I think that's never been a real big problem for me.
My mom made it very, very clear that I could do anything I wanted, and I at 45, I sometimes now I'm entering an age where I'm like, what if she was lying? Like it's, and then I'm like, well, too late.
Yeah.
Like everybody else bought it.
Which is probably the idea, right? Like that.
It is like when we talk about because I've always used the example when I'm like on panels and stuff. It's like, you know, being a guy that like wishes he could, you know, in some regard, as far as doing the right thing with a job that is very like not a cakewalk, but an honor, a privilege, like a rare like thing to come by, this job. Like my white guilt and stuff, and like always makes me what am I supposed to do to like take my little piece of the industry and like try to like make sure I left it a little better than I came into it. And the metaphor that I've constantly used is like, the problem isn't you know, we can talk about representation of the writers and all these things, but like the syndrome ends the day like a black girl in sixth grade right now is watching TV and going like, oh, I think I'll try writing that, which I just don't think it was in when I was your age. Probably, I won't ask. I don't think that was even a remote. And it was like, that's what we talk. I think that's what we're getting at when we talk about this systemic like. Yeah. Problems that are now, we're not going to pretend that they're ending, but that we notice that the actual like profound changes are coming in the form of show running. Like
yeah, I mean, Shonda Rhimes was like, when I first watched Grey's Anatomy, and then because, you know, it was set in Seattle, and so we're like, we're going to watch the show. And then when I saw a picture of her for the first time, because like you don't see who the showrunner, you know, unless it's. So the first time I saw a picture of her, and I was like, oh my god, like this black woman.
Shonda Rhimes could be like an old Jewish guy. It's kind of.
Like I mean,
Shonda, we're going for lunch. Yeah, I'm working on the rewrites.
Like could have been, and then I saw the picture, and I was like, I think that was a very important thing for me. Like, oh, she's doing this, and that person exists and is doing this.
It's a job. It's a job you can do. It's like I just think, it's not. I was just, you know, like I go to the extreme place with like little black girl, like that image, but it's like little kids in general.
Yeah.
But herein lies the problem. Now, like in terms of your biography too, we'll segue into that, because I always feel like but we can't tell people to take a shot at this job. Part of that is extremely irresponsible.
Yeah.
It would be more responsible to tell somebody to try being a doctor, because there's like definitive milestones, scholarships, tests, a million chances for you to for you and I, as somebody who might say to somebody, you should be a writer, like for us to have sent that person on a path to hell.
Yeah. It seems like something, I don't know, like one of the things I hate is when someone like wins an award, like, and you know, and they're up there and they're like, follow your dreams, you can do anything. It's like, are you good at that thing though? Because you shouldn't be telling people who are bad at something. Like, you at a certain point, you know, I think you have an inkling of like, can I do this? Is this really, like, is this possible? Do I believe in myself? Whatever. And like, I don't think you should be like, I think that's an important thing to remember. So,
but also we got to be honest, like even a lower middle class white guy like myself, I think like there is a support system there. Yeah. I mean, I was borrowing money from my mom for, you know, well into my 20s. And like my mom was like, yeah, you look like a comedian, you look like a writer, you know, here's another $3,000 for, you know, what really turned out to be cocaine and weed. And it was like, I can't fathom that exists in like the neighborhoods that it would be important for that to be, because it's like, but that's where my brain turns into a balloon animal, because I'm like, you can't tell a poor kid, like a dirt poor kid, you should try being a writer. You can, your dreams, you can do anything. It's like, no, he can't. Yeah.
I mean, and like in a lot of ways, like when I was living in New York, I was working in PR, and I was just like blogging all the time. And so Jezebel had offered me an editorial fellowship. So that was a job that was, at the time, it was part-time minimum wage. And it was something where like, if I had asked my parents for help, they would have, if I was like, this is my dream, they would have helped me. they would have supported me, and I knew that I had that as an option. But I also was just like, I don't want to ask them for help for something that I'm not like, oh, this is like the dream.
Right.
I like to save my big favors for, when like I really need it. And I was like, I don't know if I need this bad enough.
Yeah, I also want to lower my $3,000 number. That was me adjusting for like Trump dollars.
That was like $100.
I never got more than you can get out of an ATM from my mom.
No, but like,
and I definitely spent it all on coke and weed. Like, so it really wasn't privilege. Like, I didn't spend it on a typewriter.
Right.
But yeah, and also I want to put another asterisk on something I said, because if there are, it's like I said, like, no, they can't. It's like, well, no, I mean, it's not as easy. There's no equivalent.
Yeah, and if you don't know anyone, like one of the most helpful things for me was when I moved to LA and I started meeting TV writers, and I was like, oh, these people are not that impressive. Surely I can figure this out if these dum-dums have figured it out. And like, I think that was really important to like realize that like, oh, these are just most of them are regular people doing this. But like, if you don't live in LA and you're not around those people, I have no idea how you would figure that out. Like, it seems like this mythical, unreachable thing.
Yeah, it's difficult to figure out when the actual empire that is the geographically located Hollywood will just bottom out, because it seems by a logical assessment that it's a total non-necessity anymore. And we know that people are shooting things in Portland and Vancouver and all over, and that a city going broke now, a great way for them is to give tax incentives and say, come shoot here and we will do it. So I keep wondering, like, why are we here? What's going on? But that's one thing that hasn't changed in 50 years is like, oh yeah, you move to LA and you get a drink in a bar and you are immediately gaining some kind of advantage over someone who's in Minneapolis aspiring to write one day, because you're just it's just erosion. It's just like you're gonna run into somebody. You're gonna overhear jokes. You're gonna like you're just getting desensitized to what is otherwise an impossibly mythical kingdom.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's just a bunch of normal morons. Like we're just piddling around out here. Like we're plumbers that didn't have to qualify for anything. We don't even have to. Because there's no bar you really have to. Yeah, like you can't prove that the toilet is leaking in writing. You can say it, but we can also go, well, I think you have bad taste. I don't think you really understand what a toilet is, sir. But yeah, specifically like class-wise, where would you place yourself growing up?
I mean, my dad worked at Microsoft. That's why he grew up in Seattle, but we moved back. So like, I went to a private school. I went to a private university. So like I had a lot of friends that were like very wealthy, and so I knew we weren't that, but I was like, we're fine. So I didn't, we weren't like, but life was nice, for sure.